Okay, so another thing that I want to mention in regards to like when you have pants is that a lot of times, so of course you can get rid of them and put them elsewhere, but another thing that you can do is you can sew your pants into a skirt. Or in other words, you can convert your pants to a skirt. So I don't know, you may have like so many pants and you're like, you know what? I really like the design of these. So, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert them. And that's perfectly fine too. And of course, you can add your fringes to them and all that stuff. But we'll talk about that in another episode. But there's so many YouTube videos. I'm sure there's TikTok videos. And I'm sure you can even find some on Pinterest. But people will sew their pants and convert them into a skirt. And sewing also is like a really good skill. So if you are able to do that, do it. Go for it. And now I'm going to get into the topic of crop tops and tank tops. Okay, so typically for me, when I wear tank tops, either my tank tops are going to be for an undergarment to go under my shirt, because sometimes there are certain shirts that may be like a little see through light. So you want to make sure that you wear a black tank top just to make sure you're protecting your modesty and all of that. Also with tank tops, I don't wear just like a plain tank top with no jacket or anything. If I'm wearing a tank top, I'm always going to make sure I have a jacket on or something that goes over it. Also, so with crop tops, I person I personally so I personally like to wear crop tops. So I'm going to tell you how I wear my crop top. So a crop top, of course, is a very like short shirt. So okay, you want to make it modest, right? So what you can do is you can take whatever color tank top you have, but you want to make sure that the tank top is not the color of your skin, because if it is, it's like what's the point? You still be giving the illusion that your stomach is showing, and that's what you don't want. So typically like a black tank top, a white one, you want to be careful with those just to make sure that they're not see-through, of course. And really whatever color, just not the color of your skin tone. And then you can put the crop top over it. You can style it with the cute skirt, and it just looks really pretty and good. Um, so next up is section 3, mindset. So as Israelite teen girls, we need to have a modest mindset. And what that means is, so we should not have an immodest mindset. So a modest mindset is you're thinking about the scriptures, you're reading daily, all that. That's what you're supposed to have as a modest mindset. We should not have an immodest mindset. And what would that be? So that would be thinking about boys, thinking about partying, drinking drugs, smoking, gossiping, spreading rumors, etc. And that's just thinking about these things. And when you think about something, you typically are going to end up acting on it. And that is not a modest mindset that you want to have. Those are not things that should be on your mind. So in Zechariah chapter 19, verse 29 through 30, it talks about how we carry ourselves shows who we are. So how I gave that example of the girl walking down the street in very immodest clothing, it's going to show who she is. It's going to show she has no care for herself. Because just because you dress modest does not mean you have a modest mindset. You can dress modest all day, but still have an immodest mindset. And that needs to change. So that brings me to section 4. I'm going to use an example of our foremother, Judith. So you can read this in Judith chapter 11, verse 21. So Judith was known for her beauty, but not just her beauty, but for her wisdom. And one thing in this world today that's hard to find is a woman or a teen girl that has wisdom, because today people look at these women like they have some type of wisdom when truly they don't. They're just speaking about things that are irrelevant and that are not to help their people. Every time you speak, you want to make sure wisdom comes out of your mouth, and that includes the modest mindset. All right, so section 5 talks about modesty in the gym. So, of course, as teen girls, fitness is very important and a vital thing in your life, of course, especially when you get older. So, for example, a lot of people want to know, okay, how can I dress modest in the gym? Oh, should I still wear my pants? No, the Bible does not say, okay, if you're working out or something, then you can wear pants. No, Deuteronomy 22 verse 5 specifically says, a woman shall not wear which pertain to a man. It's a no pants zone, no short zone, none of that. So I'm going to tell you how you should dress modestly in the gym. So yet again, you can go on Instagram, Pinterest, and find so much inspiration. But I'm going to give an example of me again. So, for example, I work out at home. And I like to make sure, like, for example, if I'm doing ab workouts or something like that, typically it involves raising your legs up and down. And sometimes your skirt or dress, depending on what kind of fabric, it could end up slipping or sliding or falling down. So what you want to do is always make sure you wear leggings. Every time you go to the gym, make sure you bring leggings just to protect your modesty. And I'm sure you're wondering, okay, wear leggings under your skirt or dress, but what type of fabric do I wear? Because a lot of people get worried that, oh, I can't work out because my dress or skirt is going to get caught into the equipment. You have to make sure you know what kind of fabric to wear. So one thing that's good to wear is sweat skirts. You can wear a midi sweat skirt, which is still below the knee, or you can wear a long one, but it really just depends on you and your preference. So that's one example. You can also wear like very flowy skirts. So like a flowy midi skirt or a flowy very long skirt. That's a good example. And like I said, always bring leggings. And of course, for like shirts, you can just wear a regular dry fit short sleeve shirt, or if you want to do long sleeve, you can do that. Like I said, you got to make it fun, you got to make it cute, and you can have so much fun with all the different styles that you can do with modesty in the gym. That does not mean you can just, go to the gym, because especially if you look at today how women dress in the gym, they're literally putting their bodies on display. And like I said, your body is not for display. That is not how we are supposed to dress. And like I said before, you always just want to make sure you bring your leggings. Another good example of modest gym attire would be hoodie dresses. So hoodie dresses typically are below the knee and are very long. However, though, I don't suggest wearing a skirt or dress that has a lot of embellishments or that is like down to the floor, because if it's down to the floor, of course, you could trip. So maybe down to the ankles or shin, that would be pretty good if you want it to be longer. And if you want it to be slightly shorter, still keep it below the knee. And also, like I said, they have hoodie dresses. So hoodie dresses are really good to work out in. They're very fashionable, and like, especially if you go on Shein or Amazon, you can find so many hoodie dresses in budget. So it's perfect. Alright, so now we are on section 6, which is our closing for today's and this week's episode. So remember, modesty is about how you dress in your mindset, because how you dress shows who you are. If you are covering your body and being modest, it's going to show who you are. And if you're being immodest, it's going to also show who you are. So, I'm your host, Havila, closing out Virtuous Voices. Thank you for your time. Shalom.